been up to at home, Lee?
Um, Eating pizza luce.
Tell them the story, your Pizza Luce story.
Yeah, I called Pizza Luce last night, and I was like, I want some pizza because I was hungry, and they got this like coupon for like a free Gouda mac and cheese, which is so good. And this dude's like, I didn't even know I had points, like they had a point system at Luce, but they do. And this dude's like, holy crap, you have a ton of points. Everything you're gonna get is gonna be free. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it. Okay, Awolnation is here. What's up, guys?
Hey,
Aaron, what's up, man?
dude, I'm really sorry that I interrupted you talking about Gouda mac and cheese. I'm pretty sure it was.
Dude, it is so freaking good. It's bacon in it, and it's amazing. But yeah, it's a local place here in Minneapolis,
You know
which
what?
I am.
What mac and cheese isn't good though? You know.
You got a point there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a big mac and cheese aficionado. Um,
A
but
lot of
what's
people
up,
like.
dude? How are you?
Good, man. You know, some of my friends will be like, "Oh, you gotta try this cookie. It's the best cookie." I'm like, "Well, aren't most cookies pretty good? I mean, it's hard to mess up a cookie. It's hard to mess up mac and cheese. It's hard to mess up pizza. It's hard to mess up donuts, obviously. You know.
Oh yeah,
So,
for sure.
anyways, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. We got the whole, quarantine thing happening in Minnesota. Where are you at?
Oh, well, I live in Malibu, California, so we're right in the middle of it too. Um, in fact, I think our state was one of the earlier to do the full deal.
Mhm.
So been adjusting as best as I can, and talking to people like you, and doing things, trying to find positive in it, and created opportunities to communicate, because you can't go get a hug that you'd usually get unless it's your wife that you live with or something like that, or girlfriend. But so it's been nice to communicate with people you don't usually talk. We've never done this, so this is cool for us to do. And I've been talking each day to having different guests. So this is actually my first time joining someone else's stream, so thanks for having me. But
Oh, cool.
I've been
Yeah,
talking to
thanks
some
for.
really interesting, enlightened people that have been sharing different ways to mentally stay strong and positive through this.
Nice, good. Somebody told me, I never heard this story, if there is a story, but there's a crazy story about your house being saved from the wildfires.
Yeah.
Is there a story with this?
It's funny that you should mention that, because I was watching like an edit of a document, like a short documentary that we're gonna put up somewhere at some point about the making of this new record, and so much of it had to do with the fire, the Woolsey fire, that any of your listeners or viewers right now are checking out, was a heavy deal here in California. I'm sure it made your news even
Yeah.
at the time, but it seems like it's definitely taking a back seat right now to what has been going on. But the common thread is that the fear of the unknown, and how to get through sort of the terrifying notion of a fire spreading, much like what's going on with this virus. So but yeah, about I guess it would be about a year and a half ago, the Woolsey fires roared through where I'm sitting now, and took a lot of my belongings in my studio, and a car, and all these trees, and just torched a bunch of wildlife too. And the rebuilding process of that, both mentally and physically, was a huge influence and inspiration to this batch of songs and this record called Angel Miners and the Lightning Riders, which comes out, I guess, at the end of this month. And so it's weird that we're sitting here now, and so many of the lyrics from the record feel very very relevant to what's going on now. But just I wrote it about a fire, and now this is a metaphorical fire for a different reason. So it's really weird, really bizarre to listen to these songs or sing them at all, or anything like that, especially right now.
Wow. Yeah. So you've been through a crisis before.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for people that have never gone through it before? Like, anything you could tell them to calm them, or anything?
Again, I've talked on these live conversations I've been having. I've talked to some people that are much smarter than me, for sure. People who actually went to school for this kind of thing. And this guy by the name of Dr. Michael Gervais said it best when I talked to him last week. He said, he said, you know, he felt that he had been training for something like this his whole life. And I think there's something to be said about that. You know, life goes on each day, and we try to figure out, you know, the big questions of life, like what's the purpose of life, or what's to come, or what am I saving money for? What am I trying to make money for? What am I trying to provide for? You know, and I guess these sort of moments are kind of the big moment of life that you look back on to see how you handled it. So if you're able to either help anyone or help your loved ones or your elders, you know, I think it's really important to check in with your parents, your grandparents, if you have any, or, you know, people who are maybe more vulnerable at a time like this, and those in need. You know, it's a really good opportunity to do that. And it also helps take your mind off the man in the mirror or the woman in the mirror, because you're able to sort of give and not worry so much about yourself, which I find is really helpful.
Right. So you said you've been talking to a lot of people, been
Yeah.
doing Instagram stuff. Other than that, what have you been doing to pass the time when you're stuck
Well,
inside?
you know, mostly been focused on these conversations. We've been lucky enough, you know, see, through music, the beautiful thing about music is that I've met so many just colorful characters along my journey, you know, and become friends with people that I never thought I'd be friends with. And it was because of music, you know, that we connected. And I think we could all relate, you know, when you're in high school or any school for that matter, you tend to become friends with people who like the same music, it seems. And so that's been helpful, talking to those kind of people. And then, you know, we have a whole record coming out. So I see a lot of other artists postponing the release of their album right now, but I felt like, you know, I don't know if this is a great business decision or whatever, you know, because that is a reality, but it seems more important to me to release music to the people who are counting on it and anticipating, you know, an escape, which is what music has always been for me.
Yeah.
So we're going to push forward and release the music. No idea when we're going to get to play a show again. No one knows. I don't know if it's this year, next year, 4 months from now. I have no idea. I don't think anyone knows. So we're just following protocol, but I promise you that I'll be doing everything I can to you know, provide as much live connection as I can. So, you know, as soon as I'm allowed to get with my band members again, I'm sure we'll get right back in the studio and maybe do some live versions of these songs, and so forth and so on. But, you know, mostly just appreciating the simple things right now and trying to stay mentally focused, and really trying to limit my viewing of any bad news, because it's just always bad. So I'm trying to stay focused and not consume too much of the mainstream news right now.
Yeah. So I guess there could be a positive from this coronavirus thing going on, that we got more time, a lot of us, to be at home, to maybe do something you haven't done in a while, you've been putting off. So is there anything that you are watching or wanting to learn, or maybe have learned since being inside?
Yeah, there's a handful of songs I've always wanted to learn and play, just for my own enjoyment and therapeutic reasons. And so I've taken the time to learn those songs, and whether or not I'm doing a good job of covering these songs remains to be seen. You'd have to ask my dogs and my wife. They seem to be pretty supportive, but you never know. And so doing stuff like that, you know, just trying to stay physical as much as I can, and you know, do little workouts at home and stuff like that. And you know, but also I'm trying to think of, you know, I'm brainstorming and trying to figure out ways to help. You know, in situations like this, a lot of people have a good plan and where they want to donate and how they want to help people. But I'm also trying to take a good view at everything, so I could figure out the very best way to help when the dust settles a little bit, because I think the aftermath is going to be just as severe as what is actually currently happening, because so many people are losing jobs. So I'm just trying to think of the best way to serve people that really need help, you know, because we just don't know. I mean, we don't know. We don't know how, if yeah, I try to remain optimistic, but see, I tend to run on the pessimistic side naturally. Maybe that's why I write songs, and maybe that's why people related to my music. But try to look at the glass half full, but always bracing myself. Maybe it's a protective mechanism. I'm not sure, but
Sure.
hey, when I get to see you and hug you, that's going to be a pretty cool thing. Let's just say that.
Yeah, for sure. One thing, especially for me, that sucks the most because it's kind of like an escape for me a lot of the time is watching sports, and we don't have any sports going on right now. And I know you're a baseball fan. Do you think baseball should be played in the winter if it could?
Well, that's a wild card scenario, right? So how fun would it be if you got to watch baseball, football, and basketball all at the same time? I mean, there's some sort of crossover in October, you know, when the NBA starts, although baseball's not, well, that's at the tail end. Yeah, so that's a really cool time. So, you know, we'll see. It's obviously fun that the NFL draft is still going to happen. You know, so we could watch that. And as a Raiders fan, we have 2 picks in the first round, not to go down the path of that, but so that's exciting for me. But who knows, man? I mean, I just don't know. There's so many tours that are on hold that I was, you know, I mean, we're so excited to play these new songs, obviously, but you know, there are other bands I was looking forward to seeing, like Rage Against the Machine and you know, all these different bands. And you know, I was just talking to Duff the other day on one of these live chats, Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses, and you know, they had all sorts of dates planned too, and you know, those are stadiums. And you know, I just, for the sake of rock and roll and the healing therapeutic nature of what a concert can do, you know, I sure look forward to figuring out when the hell we could go back to rocking again, you know, because I just don't know. And it would be neat. See, that's the thing. I'm trying to figure out how to handle the unknown as best as I can, because I just don't know. It's under, you know, there's doctors that have opinions, there's governments, there's and everything in between. And so trying to deal with the unknown, I think, is a good practice, and something that we'll all hopefully be mentally stronger because of when all the dust settles.
For sure. So one thing that I think is really cool, it makes me appreciate kind of you as an artist a lot more than I would say a random, you know, person, and, you know, as a band, and, you know, even Red Bull Records, because they basically just gave you the key to the kingdom, right? And just kind of said, take your time, do whatever you want, make this yours, right? Is that how that went?
Are you talking about the beginning sort of deal?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think in the very beginning, no labels really. I was like Damaged Goods. I had been in a couple of other signed bands, and they had failed. And so I think people saw some sort of hope or potential in the songwriting I had done, but I never branched out on my own. So it wasn't until you know, my last band, Under the Influence of Giants, who I feel like we had some good shows in Minnesota, actually, which is rare. It was like Minnesota was pretty cool. Grand Rapids, Michigan was like, we felt like we were the Beatles there. We played this place called I forgot what it was called now, honestly. I'm drawing a blank. But you know, and then Chicago was okay and LA was okay, but everywhere else no one knew us. And so that ended up falling apart. And then I just started my own thing, and yeah, I was lucky enough that they, I think, accidentally allowed me to make my own music. And you know, I'm not with them anymore, but I am grateful for the opportunity that I was given in the beginning, for sure.
Yeah, that's wild. So you mentioned it a little bit earlier. You got the new album coming out, Angel Riders and Lightning Riders.
Sorry, it's a bit of a tongue twister. It's Angel Miners, like mining for gold.
That's it.
Angel Miners, yes. and the Lightning Riders, yeah.
Yeah, so what does that name mean?
Well, it's funny you should ask, because it feels very relevant, you know, as I was saying before, but it represents the glass half full and half empty, or good and evil, dark and light, you know, the stuff that I think about most. And my favorite movies represent, like Star Wars, for example. And for anyone who hated the last episode of Star Wars, and I'm sorry if you disagree, but I thought it was as good as they could have done, leading up to what had happened, and sort of the twists and turns of the Last Jedi and stuff. It was like, what more could you have asked for?
Absolutely, I agree.
But I'm a huge fan. But having
Me
said
too.
that, it's my way. The angel miners are sort of like, in a situation like this, a crisis like this, you think like, well, why did this happen? Who started this? And or with the Woolsey fires, for me, it's like, well, where did this come from? Where did this evil force come from? And I don't mean literally like, what spark started the actual fire, but why did this happen? And what are the emotions behind it? And so I figured I took a lighthearted approach in thinking that I could create an answer in this mystical universe where these angel miners were the cause of all the problems. And with that, and their leader, his name is Zuno, and it's all in the most recent music video we released, which is for a song called Slam, Angel Miners. And there's like it kind of tells a story that way. But so with the angel miners, they were creating all this chaos and so forth and so on. So the earth decided that it needed to create something to defend the earth from these bad guys. And so that ended up being the Lightning Riders, led by a character named Kapala. And that's basically what the album's about, good versus evil, or, trying to look at the everything half full, because it's hard sometimes, especially now.
Yeah. April 24th.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you for
it's kind of
releasing
like
it.
blending together for me. I'm sure maybe you feel the same way, but it's.
Yeah.
I wake up like, wait, what day is today? I just know what day it is based on who I'm talking to.
Yeah, every day. I mean, it's like Groundhog Day every single day, because I'm still continuing going to the radio station every day, and it's like, is it Saturday, Tuesday, Monday, whatever.
Well, what's been the difference for you and your radio station when you go in there? I could see that you're there, so that's cool that you're able to still go in. But do you find that people are more engaged listening or less?
It's kind of it's hard to really determine. Obviously, a lot of people aren't driving in their cars a lot anymore, but we try to be very active on social media, so it's kind of hard to gauge. Hopefully, I mean, I hear from some people, yes, but then, sometimes there's not a lot of text or calls that would normally happen in a day.
Right.
But we're just, as long as we can, keep on rolling through it. So
yeah,
it's fun. And obviously can't wait for the album. Thank you for doing it. I think, as you said earlier, it is a little bit of an escape for a lot of people. People are in need of entertainment and stuff to look forward to. So I appreciate that. I got a couple quick questions. We're just gonna do like a quick this or that thing, and I think that's pretty much all I got for you. Xbox, PlayStation 4, or Nintendo Switch?
Dude, I'm way too old for that answer, I think. But I mean, my last reigning days of that time was Xbox, and I was on the first wave of Halo, which is a big deal to me. The last game I think I beat was Fable 3, I think, and so I guess I'd say Xbox, although looking back at my whole career of gaming, original Nintendo was the deal for me. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out and Contra and everything,
Absolutely.
so that's showing my age too. But yeah, I haven't played any of those other systems, honestly. I got to Xbox 2, I think.
Okay. Pepsi or Coke?
Neither. They're really bad for you. But if on a taste level, I would go with Coke, of course.
Okay. The Office or Parks and Rec?
Well, The Office leaps and bounds. Parks and Rec was kind of, a nice filler after The Office, same format. And I actually just finally watched Parks and Rec because I was hating on it for the longest time, but a good friend of mine by the name of Sophie Carpenter worked on it. She did accounting for it, and so I checked it out, and I ended up liking it a lot. It's a great show, but The Office is to me number one or number two best comedies of all time.
For sure. Okay, so takeout or making your own food?
Making your own food.
Okay. Billie Eilish or King Princess?
I would have to obviously say Billie Eilish, and not only are her songs great, I sort of know Phineas, and I also saw an interview where Billie said that the first song she ever purchased was "Sail" by Us, so I have to go with that.
Nice. Okay. Back to the Future 1 or 2?
1.
Okay.
Always. In fact, the first guitar I got when I had a little bit of like back in the day when they give you a record deal advance to buy like some gear and stuff, you know, I bought sort of a rip-off version of the guitar that Marty McFly plays at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, was it a Gibson?
Yeah, it's a Gibson hollow body ES3, I believe, and
Nice.
he plays Johnny B. Good, and I thought that was him singing all the time.
Well, Aaron, that's all I have for you, man. Thank you for doing these. Thank you for taking the time. And this is a nice little getaway, I think, for a lot of people. So
Cool.
Thank you so much. Cannot wait for the album, April 24th, Angel Miners and Lightning Riders, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for continuing to do your best, you know, and going into work and being courageous with that microphone. It looks pretty dangerous, and you know, stay safe, man.
Hey, you too, man. Thanks. Hopefully we get you in Minneapolis soon.
All right, take care.